Hello, beautiful humans. I'm Alena Turley. I'm a somatic therapist, a mother of 3, a wife of 1, an educator, and a guide to the human experience. If you're feeling under the pump, stretched beyond your capability, or like you're stuck in some old patterns and you've lost touch with what truly matters, this space is designed for you. And each episode will explore tools, stories, integrated practices that can help you reset or reconnect and step into that deeper sense of clarity with maybe a little bit more joy and a sense of your impact or purpose. I believe we do not need more to do. We do not need more hustle. We need more heart, more presence, more alignment with the actions that we choose to take, a sense of intentionality. Let's begin. Welcome to the Unboxable podcast.
Well, my name is Ting Ting Guan, and I'm currently based in California, in Nevada City, and I chose this place after the fires that happened in Los Angeles. I was based in Los Angeles, and the reason why I chose this place was because the nature is so beautiful. There's a great balance between the earth elements, water. The river here is absolutely phenomenal and so breathtaking. And so I get really inspired by the surroundings around me and the vibration of the different types of animals and the different types of plants. And so it really enlivens me to be around a lush environment. And I love to co-create with it. I love dancing with it. I love moving with it. And I allow it to harmonize my body, to regulate my emotions, to drop into a space of intuition. I believe that humans can be so intuitive. We have so much magical capabilities that kind of get stifled when we're in these like little boxes going into these cities and in this constant busyness, electronics. And so when we get back to the rhythms of nature, we are really getting back to our own magic. And so that's what I love to do.
I love that. I totally love that. I'm going to do something I very rarely do. And I'm just going to turn my computer around so you can see what I'm looking at right now.
I would love to.
You're going to understand why in a second if I can turn around my setup. Okay, here we go, everyone. Can you see that?
Wow. I see it. It's a little blurry, but it's a beautiful view. Where are you?
I'm in Sydney, and believe it or not, we moved away from the beach because I had that same thing with the ocean. That was the way that I often would commune with nature was by being with nature was to go to the beach. And I grew up doing that. And often in therapeutic practice, I just prescribe nature. I just say to people, you need to just go and be in nature, but like really be in it.
Present with it without trying to take all these photos or try and record anything, and really just, be fully present and embrace it and appreciate it because it is so. I mean, I wish that it was a common thing to be surrounded by it constantly, but it is getting very rare because of all the development and construction. And so, I take it. I'm also surrounded by trees here in my home, and every day I wake up to the birds and I get to know, like, you get how you have like your animal friends. I say like, so to have animal friends now and the deer walking by. And so it's been really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even try to keep nature outside. I'm the crazy plant lady. I'm always surrounded by plants. They're just crawling all over my house. Like I literally walk down my stairs through the vines, like I've just always lived like. And I think once you have that experience, or if you feel attuned to that, it's just becomes the only way to live, doesn't it? Like if that's the way you feel and the way you sense nature, it becomes, it's not separate to us. I think that the Western world has been very good at separating things out. And I often talk about how, we talk about mind and body. They're not, I know we need to talk about them that way because we need to understand them and communicate them. But in reality, they're not at all separate. There's no separation. That's a concept that we've created, because we need it, not because it's true.
Yes, exactly. And in a lot of Eastern philosophy, the body is the unconscious mind. So whatever shows up in our body, right, is a reflection of what we're not looking at or holding back in our unconscious mind.
Just a quick pause here. If what we're talking about on Unboxable feels like it's speaking directly to you, especially if you're ready to move beyond the daily hustle toward a deeper alignment, I'd love to invite you into the Lion Life Method. It's my ongoing support system for women who want real life somatic tools to stay resource centered and deeply connected. It's based on years and years of personal experience and training, and also brings in the help of other experts in all kinds of amazing fields. Inside it, you'll find live monthly resets and a beautiful, intimate community, and all the support you need to walk your path with confidence. To learn more and to join us, just head over to alenaturley.com or find the link in the show notes. Now let's get back into it. 100%. So I have to admit something to you so that you understand a little bit why I'm so excited to speak with you, is that I'm a martial artist and I'm currently going for my second degree black belt in Hapkido. And so a lot of what you talk about, although we're obviously coming from different practices and different angles, I will understand from that perspective, from that lived experience kind of perspective. And I know, like, when we're training, there's a very direct sense and a very direct link between all these things we're talking about. And it's experiential when you're training, when you're doing Qigong, when you're doing martial arts, when you're doing any kind of practice, yoga, that combines all of them in the one moment and in the one practice. You have an awareness of that in a different way. So talk to me, how did you come to do what you do?
It's interesting how I developed GuanJing. My background has been in yoga for a really, really long time. I was facilitating yoga teacher trainings in Bali, and my whole world revolved around yoga, meditation, and hosting retreats and trainings. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I decided to follow love. And I never been to Los Angeles before. And my whole career was in Bali. And when I landed in Los Angeles, it was a few months before the pandemic. And I thought in my little naive brain, oh, I'll just transfer all of my business over to Los Angeles. Well, that fell flat on its face because Los Angeles is not known as a destination for meditation and yoga. And already the market was overly saturated and people were not going to give up any of the positions. And you had to know somebody to be able to get even a substitute position. And my bank account was going, and I was getting more and more depressed. I felt like, oh, they don't need me. There's all these healers and teachers. Like, why do I even need to exist? It looks like that's been filled, right? And so I had no desire to meditate or practice yoga anymore. And I sat with this overwhelming amount of pressure and frustration and feeling of deep unworthiness. And I didn't know how to move it.
This is the
So I was
space
sitting
where we
underneath these
explore
oak
powerful,
trees. I
grounded
lived in Topanga
practices,
Canyon.
honest stories, and
all of a sudden,
fresh
I just started to
perspectives
breathe in this
that
different
help you
way and move
reconnect
in
with
this different
yourself,
way.
gently release those
And
old
it was
sticky
allowing me
patterns,
to
and start
move
navigate.
and transmute all of those negative emotions out of my body, out of my system. And every time I finished, it was like it was a very sacred dance. And when I finished, I felt a lot more trust in the divine timing of things. I felt like I was supported. I felt like I was guided. And so I started practicing this in public at the beach and at the park. And it was wild every time. It was no joke. Every time I opened my eyes, people were staring at me and they're like, what are you doing? I want to learn this. Is this yoga? Is this Qigong? Is this dance? And I was just cracking up at myself like, okay, universe, I hear you. Clearly, this is something I developed, right? And so I had to work kind of backwards and film myself and say, okay, I'm visualizing this energy when I'm doing this specific movement. And oh, I see I'm doing these circular shapes. And this is what I feel is happening in the pelvis. And so I started to create these basic form movements. And each movement has a specific meditation. And each movement can link with the other one so that you eventually dance with energy. And so that's how it started. And now we have trainings all over the world. Students are signing up. It's a very global experience. And I'm always in awe and inspired by the countries that people show up in and the people that decide to enroll in the membership. So it was definitely a process to get to where I am today. And oftentimes when people ask me, oh, how did this start? It's like, wow, it just seemed to have downloaded into my body from a moment of severe depression.
Have you read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic?
No, I haven't.
You know, Eat, Pray, Love, like that's got a Bali story in it. So Liz Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, one of her books, which I would highly recommend you read, it's fantastic, is called Big Magic. And it's about that. It's about the way that creative downloads occur. And, you know, it's really cool. So there's two things I wanted to ask you. One, you used a word, which I guess is the name for the style that you've created or that you've channeled. And if you could tell us more about that, but also if you could define what you mean. I know what I think it means, but what you think it means when you say transmute.
Okay, yeah. So GuanJing, the translation of GuanJing is my last name is Guan, and one of the translations is mountain pass, and Jing means the essence or spirit of. So GuanJing is the essence or spirit of the mountain pass, moving through life's challenges with the graciousness of the wind and the water flowing through the most challenging life mountains, understanding that we have the capability to direct these energies and these seemingly overwhelming emotions and feelings to carve in a gracious way our life and to not run away from our challenge, but to move with it, to be guided by it into a place of expansion and release. And when I say transmute, what I mean is the literal scientific definition of energy. It can neither be created nor destroyed, right? Only transformed into something else. And so that is what our emotions are, is the transformation. And energy and emotion is energy in motion. So it's always moving. It's always a wave. But how do we ride that wave? Do we like fall over and get angry and bang our head against the wall? Or do we fall down and laugh and swim in the wave and then get back up? And that's what it's all about, learning how to integrate that in our everyday experiences.
That's awesome. I would say, you know, as I'm listening to you, so much of what you're saying resonates with the work I do as well. You know, these are quite universal principles that you're discussing and ones that definitely apply to martial arts training, definitely apply to the kind of therapeutic work that I do as well. And these themes come up all the time, you know, and I just love hearing the way that you talk about it. Everyone has their own way to talk about it. I love hearing the way you talk about it and that it's so intrinsically linked with nature. And it's funny, you're talking about the mountain and the nature and the energy. I recently, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine asked me, she challenged me. She said, what would happen if you created an image of your program, but like an image of the village? She said, you know, you kind of create a village with your community and maybe you can do like an artwork on that. And I was like, well, there's a challenge. And so I created this artwork and it was so crazy. It ended up looking like an old Chinese watercolor painting. And at the top was the big mountain. And then there was all of these kind of stops along the way with these imagery representing the stages of the program. So as you were describing that, I was imagining the way that I recently represented my program in this very sort of ancient Chinese watercolor way, accidentally. And I think that there's so much goodness in the ancient wisdom of so many cultures. Is it Chinese culture that is your background?
Yes, so I'm actually Mongolian Chinese, and I grew up with a Chinese heritage. I grew up in China, and actually this coming October, I'll be leading a journey through horseback through the Altai Mountains in Mongolia, working with falconry and the golden eagles. But I love what you said about like the lineage of all of these ancient cultures are all fused. It's all different wording, right? But it's all from the same essence. It's birthed from the same idea of like the balance and the harmony and the elements.
Yeah, I really agree with you. I just got like huge or full body response when you talked about your Mongolian horseback adventure. I might be coming on that in the future, I think, Ting Ting,
Great.
if you do it again.
We will be.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think I love that your lineage is so clear because for a lot of us, and I'm speaking for myself and so many people I know, there is a mix, like I'm a real mix of cultures. I'm a lot of different, I'm like maybe 4 or 5 different lineages in one person because of the way that, the Second World War displaced so many people. And so we have this kind of people all mixed together. And I love exploring, culture and sociocultural history is one of my passions. And I find that when we actually get in touch with where we come from, whether that be our generational trauma element, like our epigenetic inheritance, the way we've inherited emotional imprints or emotional charges. I sort of talk about cellular memory is the way I like to say it. But we have all these things that are going on that we've inherited. Some of it might even be, depending on your beliefs, past lives, or they might be generational lives that we're carrying memories of. And a lot of this is now converging scientifically with quantum physics, with all kinds of different ways that science is showing us we do inherit emotional memory. I mean, it's how humans survive. It's not completely woo-woo to say that, but it also is like there's a spiritual inheritance as well. And for me, it's like sometimes I feel like I'm detangling, like I have all of these different filaments and lines of all of these kind of different cultures and different memories. And it's quite complex and fascinating and also, challenging because we can't always define or understand clearly where they're coming from. So, when you were talking about playing in the waves, I'll be honest, I haven't always felt like I'm playing in the waves. There's been times in my life where I've been wiped out by the waves, you know. So, talk to me about how the work that you do can help those who are experiencing echoes of trauma or difficult, crisis in their lives. How do they connect?
I one of the best sayings I know is like, if you want to change the world, start with your neighbor, right? And so start with the smallest, most impactful thing, which is someone that you can directly affect and relate to. And so this is how I relate to ourselves and our body. If you want to change the world, you have to change from within. And the first step is addressing our own inner discomfort. And one of the biggest discomforts that we feel is in our human body. Oh, I had this like pain in my hip. Oh, I had this pain in my neck. How many people go around walking throughout the day with a rock in their shoe and they just never stop to take the rock out to eliminate the discomfort, right? And so this is what GuanJing helps us with, is becoming aware of the sensations that are in our body, and then using our breath and using the movements to gently wash away and open these parts of the body. And then from there, we can begin to understand when we are in a challenging situation or any sort of maybe an argument or something that you're shocked by, right? We are then aware of that situation rather than be shocked and running away from it. We face that challenge. We're like, okay, how do I respond to this rather than react and shrink and contract and try to hide? And so a huge part of Guanjing, I always say to my students, is we spend so much time trying to like not take up too much space, whether that's on the train or on the subway or, you're at the airport or wherever, and you're just kind of just scrunching in, contracting. And in Guanjing, it's like, how much space can you give yourself in the way that you spread your hands, in the way that you relax your neck, in the way that you reach forward and lengthen the spine? And this is coming from the expressions of our breath. How deeply can we breathe? And so when we begin to practice this on a daily basis, we begin to literally expand not only our body and our energy, but also our life, our potential, the way that we can uphold in arguments and the way that we can set boundaries. And that's where the true change comes from, right? Because it's coming from within.
Great answer. Um, Again, so many things that I agree with in that. I'm not even sure what to ask you next. I was just thinking about, these universal truths in a way that, or I would say extremely common experiences. I don't want to be grandiose and say universal, but almost every single person that I work with ends up telling me how some part of their lives are constricted or shut down, and I use a similar concept as you just discussed about turning towards instead of turning away from, or finding space, finding expansion where there is contraction, breathing into it. Such similar things that you're talking about, which is fascinating, right? Because we've come from completely different experiences, but we've come to the same place. And I love this when I talk. Like, I have a friend, you might even know her. Her name is Gemini Adams, and you should know her. She's amazing. And she works all over the world in yoga and trauma release, and that goes to Bali. She's currently in Portugal. She was in Thailand, and she lived in LA for a while. And you guys would have a lot to talk about. But when we get together, and we talk, something happens. And we talk about something, it can be the most horrible thing that we're experiencing, but somehow as we talk, we breathe space into it. We breathe life into it, and we breathe movement into it. And sometimes that can happen just from talking to another person who understands. But when you combine that with movement and action, I was recently listening to someone talk about how we need friction. Change needs friction. It needs focus and friction. And I was like, that's so interesting, because like focus alone can be constrictive, but focus and movement is expansive and changes things. And, and I just think I would love to hear, how did you come to learn all of this? What was your story of finding your way to your yoga, or tell us, go as personal as you like, or as not personal as you like, as you want to share with our listeners. But I'd love to hear a bit of your personal story to this.
But yeah, my life generationally has been filled with trauma, from everything with the communist regime to my parents growing up incredibly poor, being farmers that grew up on nothing. And my mom would tell me stories how she would drink pig's blood because there was no food. And then moving from China to America, to Philadelphia, and there was a language barrier. I didn't speak English at that point, and all of a sudden I went from a whole Chinese and a whole different culture into this inner city Philadelphia, and I was in culture shock at the age of 5. And it made me go really inward, and I became very shy and a hermit. And of course, on top of that, a lot of teasing and making fun and bullying because I look different, all the classics. Oh, your name sounds like spoons dropping. Oh, why are your eyes so slanted? That kind of thing, right? And so I dealt with a lot of self-esteem issues and self-worth issues at a very early age. And my parents were poor, so it was never like I could have any of the things I wanted. It was always little hand-me-downs, or we lived very thriftfully. And then when I graduated college, I decided to go into the fashion design business. And so that's when even more self-worth issues came up, because of everything that had to do with being a certain size. I had an eating disorder. It was all about the appearance of something, and everything was about the outer shell. And I never worked on the inner shell, which is self-love, acceptance, reflection, right? And that was one of the biggest catalysts for me when it came to relationships, right? Especially people who have low self-worth, you tend to go into relationships where you end up being the person who is with a narcissist or is with someone who has a bad temper, right?
Me too.
Yes, exactly. So I had all of them. I had all the color palette, and I just wanted to get away. And I had to quit the fashion industry because I was so unhappy. That was the fashion industry was the first time I was feeling really depressed and suicidal. And then the second time was in Los Angeles. With the second time. It's really hard. And, I was down to like a little under 100 pounds, and I had anemia, and I had all these different disorders, and I was severely depressed, and it showed up in my face. But then after that, I just wanted to get away. I just had to leave everything. And I thought that this was what I wanted. I thought I wanted to be in the fashion industry. I thought I wanted to live in New York City. I thought I wanted to live this life that was all from the childhood trauma of never having enough and never
Yeah.
being enough, never looking good enough or never looking right. And then, so one day I went to a yoga class. Actually, this is when I was in North Carolina, and it was challenging and it was hard and I was dripping in sweat. And it was so satisfying after I was done. I was like, wow, I really showed up for myself. And so then I became slightly addicted. And that's how I started my yoga journey. And then once once I got into Bali to become a teacher, the school messaged me and they were like, we loved you. Do you want to live in Bali and be and stay and be a teacher? And I was like, this is the best email I've ever gotten in my entire life. And of course, that came at the cost of the another dysfunctional relationship I was in, where that news revealed the truth behind how he felt about me, which was like, how dare you? You want to leave me? You want to leave this life? And I was like, wow, this is not like this is not a supportive reaction from a partner. And
Yeah,
that was
not about him at all, right?
no, it's not. There was no discussion, but it was the breaking cycle of
Mm.
unconscious, unhealthy relationships, not only with partners, but with myself, and actually deciding to choose myself, deciding to choose what is best for me. And sometimes I think a lot of people feel like they're being selfish or something, but whatever's ultimately best and for your greater good of your health or your mental wellness or your physical wellness is going to be the greater good of all those around you, right? And that's what we learn when we're
Always.
on the air. Like, put on your oxygen mask first. It's like, of course. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And look, easier said than done. Let's face it, when you carry experiences that are less than optimal and when you carry trauma and when you have experiences, I mean, again, I think we're going to be friends, Ting Ting. Everything you're saying, I'm like, I know what you mean. I did a similar thing. I went through a similar thing, and I think it is so incredibly beautiful when you find the path that takes you into a new reality, which you did. And I'm not saying that's easy. I'm not saying you always find it straight away or it is always a direct path, but it is really interesting when life brings you something like the opportunity to work in Bali, and then it shines a light on the things that are less than optimal in your existing life that need addressing. And I'm constantly amazed at the way that life continues to bring me lessons, and I'd love to hear well, first of all, I want to know what happened next. So you were in Bali for a while.
Yes. So
How
I
long
was
were
in
you
Bali.
there?
I lived there for almost 5 years. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I was in Ubud mostly, and then I would go sometimes to Canggu. It was the lovely thing about Bali is that the housing during that time was very cheap. So you could just pop in there for a month, pop over there for a month, and still have your main house. So I loved to
Amazing.
visit the ocean when I was there. Um, but now I just went back a few months ago and it has changed.
I bet it's
Um,
changed. I got engaged there. Do you know Bamboo Inda and the Green School?
I love Bamboo Inda.
Oh, that's where I got engaged. And so
Oh,
we were there, years and years and years ago, like 12 years ago, and when I was engaged there. But I went there a few times before that because my cousin lived there. Also, she was in the fashion industry. And yeah, so Bali is a place close to my heart, but I'm a little nervous to go back there because it's changed, and it will be very different, but that's okay. So you stayed there for 5 years and then you said you followed love. So did you leave Bali for love in LA? Is that?
yes. Well, so I had met, and it's so funny because at that time, since I was 17, I would consider myself a chronic monogamist. I would just leave one relationship to immediately jump to another relationship that would last way longer than its expiration date. And
Mm.
it was that moment that happened again, and I met my now ex partner. in Bali, he had come to play at a festival and to host some concerts. So he is a musician. And so then when we met, he was like, you are it. And move with me to Los Angeles. Like, let's do this. And it was all very fast. And of course, I was like, well, I'm just going to follow the romance, the fairy tale romance, because I maybe it's because I'm born on Valentine's Day, but I'm such like, I believe in true love and soulmates and all the things. And I love being romanced and loved up on. And so I decided,
Beautiful.
okay, let's.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, fellow Aquarian here.
Yeah.
There's something about, I mean, I understand being led by love. I do. It's not without its challenge as well. But so when did you move back to the States? When was that?
That
Beginning of
was,
COVID, you said.
yeah, so it was like right at 2018, right before
Okay.
it turned 19. Yeah. And it was
Mm.
quite wild. Again, another culture shock going from Bali to Los Angeles. You just feel the heaviness when you enter into the airport, and like everything is so fast paced and
So different.
everybody, yeah, there's like everyone has their own agenda.
Yeah.
It's all very who's who. But I also really love the creative drive and the passion and each one's individual belief of themselves and what they're there to do, their dharma.
Yes.
Really enlivening to be around as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing place. I've never been to LA, but I'm drawn to California and LA, certainly. Had some amazing colleagues over there. Also, actually, Qigong teachers, Chris and Parisa Shelton. Have you heard of them? They're incredible. I'll send you links and put it in the show notes. Incredible Qigong teachers in LA, actually. And yeah, Chris actually is a bit of a sort of rock star Qigong trainer. Like he's worked with all sorts of famous people and trained, big muscly guys. And he's a really interesting guy. You'll like his stuff. And he's written books and yeah, he's a face reader, which not many people know how to do anymore. So that's kind of
I
cool.
know how to do face reading too.
That's rare. It's very rare. So
Yeah.
amazing stuff. Anyway, I digress. I always digress. I get excited about various things. And so now that you have moved to Nevada, right?
Nevada City, yeah, but it's still in California.
It's still in California, so it's not in Nevada. Okay. It's Nevada
No,
City.
it's about an hour away from Lake Tahoe and 2.5 hours from.
That's cool. That sounds
It's where the
beautiful.
gold rush happens. So there's lots of like sediments of gold. There's quartz crystals everywhere. The river's just divine here over here.
And was there a big Chinese population that came for the gold rush in America? There was in Australia.
Um, I think here I don't see his history or remnants of that in this particular city, but definitely in the Bay Area. There's a huge Chinese population, and of course, as well as in Los Angeles. So the major cities, yes, but up here, it's a lot of ranchers, a lot who grow weed. That's
Yeah.
a lot of
It's so
important.
funny. Oh, beautiful. It's so funny because in Australia, in every country town, especially in, Western New South Wales or Western or Eastern Victoria, where the gold rush was, there's a Chinese restaurant in every country town you go to because of the gold rush, because there's like this multi-generational Chinese population, like displaced Chinese population. It's really funny. So like Australian Chinese food is this very particular thing from been here a long time. But I love that. And I'm going to switch lanes because I could just talk to you all day and I feel like we're just having a chat, which is great. But I also kind of want to mine a little bit of your wisdom. So I want to talk to you about something that comes up a lot in my client base and also in people that listen to this podcast, which is chronic health conditions. So I'd like to understand a bit more about through your lens, how do you see a chronic health condition or a chronic muscle stiffness or a chronic postural issue or a POTS, for example, those sort of chronic, what POTS is, the chronic thing that sort of long COVID. How do you see all of that? How do you explain all of that from your perspective?
So if we deduce everything down to yin and yang theory in Chinese medicine, something chronic has been a disharmony that has been a subtle imbalance that every day it slowly adds up. It adds up. It adds up until it becomes a very well seen chronic condition. And on the other hand, if you think about a yang based condition, it's something more abrupt, more fast, like you tripped and fell and you hurt your elbow, right? It's
Yeah.
like this instantaneous thing, and all of a sudden you're in pain.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about chronic disease, it is little imbalances that just add up through time. And a lot of us, and there's, whatever school of thought you have, you can say it is going to take a longer amount of time for you to get back into balance, but it's those small steps every day. And I think the biggest thing that people forget is that sometimes we need a little bit of patience, because people just all of a sudden they decide that they don't want to have this chronic thing anymore. And they're like, well, I went to like one acupuncture session. Why aren't you feeling better? Right? Because they want this like instant thing, just almost like as, the whole diet culture here where they like crash diet and they're like, yeah, I lost 2 pounds. And then they can never keep it because they did something so extreme to bring it down, but then they didn't understand how to integrate the new weight or integrate a new way of living and a new way of eating into their system. And so that's what we have to really give ourselves grace with, is being patient with that process. And why I find movement to be so powerful is that the key to any success, whether that is alleviating a chronic disease, becoming financially stable and successful, like manifesting whatever you want in your life, it comes with consistency. You have to be consistent about it every single day. You can't all of a sudden have lung cancer and then not smoke for a week and then get annoyed that you still have lung cancer, right? Like there has to be a consistency and remedies in different ways, from prevention to getting rid of the cancer cells, to energy work, to your mind and mental. And so it takes work, it takes consistency. And when we do movement, I like to think about it like cleaning an attic. When you haven't looked at anything and you haven't like gone up to add, you just keep adding junk and stuff, and there's spider webs and rats and a bunch of dust balls, right? And then you go upstairs and you look at it and you're just overwhelmed by the amount of stuff you have to do or to clean it. There's like this like, oh my God, how do I do this? This is too much. But once you start clearing it, you finally begin to see the light again, and you finally get to clear out the floors, and you finally get to get rid of the cobwebs, and then you can maintain that cleanliness, and it's easy, right? Once it's like, oh, I just have to like wipe off the countertop, get a broom to the floor, and it's like a quick 5-minute thing. But in the beginning, it seems overwhelming because it's been ignored for so many years. And so I think that people run away from the first actually like facing what it is that they need to do because it feels like too much. But when you show up every day, whether that's 5 minutes, whether that's an hour of movement, you're going to be opening up pathways of energy in your body that by the end of it, it's like you have a whole new body. I actually worked with a client who was in his 60s, and he was told that he had advancing arthritis, and he was in so much pain. He had so much pain in his knees. They said that he was probably not going to be able to walk anymore. And we worked together for 2 months, and now he's running triathlons and so fit and so able and capable in his body. And the same thing with another woman, also in her 60s. She would go to bed every day with intense pain in her low back. And after starting a 7-week program with me, I have a program called Master Your Movement, where we show up weekly and we learn movements and we learn how to protect our spine and breathe correctly.
Great.
And she's like, oh my God, I don't have pain. It's only been week 2. I have no more pain in my back. And it's like, yeah, because you're moving the energy, So yeah.
I love that you mentioned integration. I often say the processes that I do with clients, sometimes they're like a subconscious process. Before you mentioned the unconscious mind and the body being the same thing. So I work the same way. So we set up a dialogue with the body or the unconscious mind, interchangeable for me. And then we do a process that helps to clear really old, long held, it's called root cause therapy. So you go right in there and you go right back to the start of those imbalances, of those micro imbalances, and you clear the charge and the energy around that original hurt. And it helps to connect all of the charges right up till now. And then we integrate, and the way that I think about integration from a neurological perspective is it's neuroplasticity. It's a rewiring of the brain, so you're talking about opening up energy channels and I'm talking about rewiring the brain, and it's kind of the same thing, like
It
it's
is.
different ways of saying the same thing. And I love that. Like, I love that you kind of need both. You need to have that intrinsic, whatever makes sense to you, that intrinsic way of understanding how to integrate and continue, little and often, whatever it is that helps you to keep the flow, to keep the slate clean in the attic, to keep, like all of those things. It's like, how do we little and often wipe the surface? And I think it has to be things that you enjoy a little bit. And it has to be things that work in your life, like it's all well and good to say, well, I want to, walk in nature 5 minutes a day. But if you don't live near nature, that's not going to work for you 5 minutes a day. You know what I mean? Like, we need to find the things that really naturally are able to be brought into our lives and maintained long term. And so I
Mhm.
think that's why I love the way that you work, and similarly the way that I work, where it's a combination of like one-to-ones and online programs and, offering kind of a smorgasbord of different ways to do just that, to bring things into your life. I'd like to ask you about your daily practice. What do you do every day? What's your little and often to keep yourself clean and well and energy channels open?
I always believe that the start of our day really sets the tone, sets the stage for the rest of the day. And so I love to wake up and not even look at my phone. I don't even like to have an alarm. So I never have appointments in the morning, only after 12 p.m. Um, just in case I sleep till 12, which actually just never is the case anyway. I'm always naturally up when the sun comes up. And so I don't look at my phone at all. I sit outside and I have tea and I gua sha my face and I just show appreciation and love for myself. And then I do a prayer. I sit in a little meditation and ask the universe to co-create with me. What am I calling in that day? What is a goal of mine that I really want assistance with? And then after that, I will feed the birds, feed myself. And I always have some sort of movement, whether that is me teaching the GuanJing, practicing by myself.
Grounded practices,
I'm
honest
near this
stories,
incredible
and
river,
fresh
and it's
perspectives that
summertime
can
right
help
now.
you
So my
reconnect
biggest
with
thing
yourself,
that I like to do in
gently
terms of
release those
movement is I
old
drive
sticky
down to the
patterns,
river and I
and
have this,
start
I'm a little bit
navigating
of a dork. I
life
have
with
like the
greater.
snorkel and the mask and I'll climb, I'll hike through the river upstream and I'll rock hop and climb on the rocks. And then when it's deep enough, I'll swim. And then when there's a nice sandy area, I'll do some movement and practice. And I always find little movements that I'm like, oh, I would love to teach this. This is really fun. And then, on the days I don't have that much time, I'll sometimes go to the gym and make sure that I stay strong as I am preparing for Mongolia, for being on a horse. And it's a lot. I'm actually surprised at how much physical effort and strength you need to be on a horse. I'm like, wow, this is very intense. So I've been training and doing a lot of the strength training at the gym. And so as long as I have some sort of physical movement, at least for an hour once a day, it keeps me in balance. I'm a type of person that if I feel like I have excess energy, and I'm also a generator too, so that might be part of the, in human design, I have an overwhelming amount of energy. And when it doesn't get utilized and transmuted properly, I become super anxious and
Yeah.
I need a way to move it and to direct it somewhere. And so movement's very, very important to me. And then, of course, ending the night with another nourishing meal, getting on red light therapy, again, getting off the air, getting the phone on airplane mode. I think, especially in the field of work that we both do, where you have to be talking to people and on email and on social
Yeah.
media, there has to be a boundary with that because you can get so sucked in, and
Absolutely.
to remove yourself from that and remove yourself from the screen. And so that's my biggest thing too.
I've been having saunas lately, like 50-minute, in and out cold plunge saunas. That's because I'm a little bit different stage of life to you. I have 3 children. I have postmenopausal, like I'm 53. So I have a different, very different rhythm. I don't have the ability to protect my time first thing in the morning for 3 hours. And so it's a very different practice for me. It's like micro and then macro, like I'll do little bits wherever I can. And then I have my martial arts practice, which is just for me, where I go and do that. And then I also have sometimes the gym at the moment because I'm going for a grading. And then I also have, once every week or two at the moment, I'm doing saunas and cold plunges, not too cold because postmenopausal, you don't want too cold. So that's been really interesting, like really focusing more on restoration and recovery, but in ways that I can do. So like last night I was doing trigger point stretching. I've got these like all these different pieces of equipment that I use to massage myself, like roll around on spiky balls and strange shapes on the floor to release all the things from the martial arts, But like, so that's just before bed at the moment, I need to release. I just need to like roll around and stretch around. It's not as pretty as yours, I promise. It's very weird looking, but it's really effective, and so then I go to bed and rest. And then when I get up in the morning, like it's on straight away. I'm getting kids to school. I'm leaving the house at 6:30, like I don't get that. Some days I give myself more time, but generally I don't have it. So it's really interesting. Like when you were speaking, I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. But that for me would be like when I'm on holidays or when I'm away. So if I go on some kind of retreat, then I can do those things. But day to day,
Yeah.
I don't have that. So it's just really interesting how we all have to find what works for us, right? We need to do what we need to do, but we also need to live. We need to allow what life has brought us and move with that, So it's just a really interesting, and we get to design. I do believe in, a life by design. We design our lives in certain ways. I recently decided Mondays I have no appointments. That's my Alena day. And it's great. So that's when I do the saunas or the walks or the cleaning, the attic, whatever it is. But then, when I have my training days, like a few hours for those training sessions. But apart from that, I'm in life, So it's just really interesting, I think, how we all find it different ways, like where we bring in what we need, but we also allow and surrender and flow, right? So it's this funny balance, isn't it?
Really is. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's funny. I have a lot of friends who have children and all this, and they're like, "What are you gonna do when you get home?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a bath and read a book." And they're like, "You are so lucky." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
they're like, shut up.
"Oh, I have my dog and that's it." Like, I don't know
I
what
know.
else should I do?
I
I should
know.
be reading a book.
And it swings and roundabouts, right? Like they're both awesome lives in their own ways, but it's just so different. It constantly strikes me. I also have friends with children, friends without children, and it's just always so interesting the different ways that and now I have friends who are empty nesters, but I'm a long way off that because I have a 22-year-old, 12 and 8-year-old. So we've got this big span of, different needs, which is very interesting. But I'm conscious we've been talking for like 50 minutes now and feels like about 5. I've got so many things I could ask you, but I wanted to just leave it there and maybe we come together again in a year and check in, because I'm going to be watching what you do, Ting Ting. Now I'm really excited to see what you're up to. I'm going to go and stalk you on the internet and have a look at your socials and all of that because I haven't done that yet. And I wanted to ask you if you can share the best way for people to see what you're up to or get in touch with you.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at guanjingmethod.com. And there'll be links there's a free class that you can try. Everybody has access to the 60-minute free class. There's also free YouTube classes on my YouTube channel. And then for those of you who really enjoy the movement, there's the online GuanJing membership where you have access to all the courses. It includes the GuanJing Method book. There's also discounts on retreats and trainings. I'm currently in the middle of hosting an annual teacher training right now. And so the teacher training integrates all the movements with Chinese medicine and the business of how to build a successful business with the GuanJing, whether you have your own business at the moment or you want to create one. And then the teacher training comes with the retreats. So there's retreats in Mexico, there's retreats in Egypt, there's retreats in Europe. And so, yeah, you'll be able to see that all through the Instagram page.
That's awesome. You must do a lot of travel. That sounds very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Amazing. Well, I have this feeling we're going to cross paths at some point, Ting Ting. I don't know when and I don't know where, but it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and to share the space with you this morning. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you for being here with us on Unboxable. My hope is that today's episode gave you a moment of insight, peace, or connection to carry into the rest of your week. If it did, please share the show with someone you love or subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you're ready for deeper support and a place to sustain your growth, you can join me inside the Lime Life Method at alenaturley.com/join or find other resources, both free and paid, in the show notes. As you go through your week, remember that the things that separate you from yourself or from others or from nature are not nearly as powerful as the things that connect you. Until next time, go gently, my friends.